how to get the most out of your conversation AI feature within ZipLeads. There is another video where we talk about all the settings and where to find each setting. This video, I'm more going to go into depth about how to get the best out of it, because there are some limitations. This is definitely a product that's in beta at the moment. And so I think the more that you that you understand from what I'm showing you in this video, you'll be able to work with your AI better, asking it to do things for you that it can do and giving it prompts that it works best with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how to use this best as an appointment booking bot first. And then secondly, I will talk about the general Q&A, the general support that it can provide as well. So to navigate to where we are, we're in the settings area in the left-hand menu, and then we're in conversation AI. That's where we're working for this video. And up the top here, we've got our bot settings. I'm going to start here to clarify a few points here. So in your preferences, you can turn it off. You can turn it into suggestive. Suggestive doesn't work at the moment at time of recording this video. The idea there being that it would put in a prompt when someone goes to manually answer. So the idea being having lesser trained staff that could clarify anything the bot's about to say and then press the enter key. And then the autopilot, which is in beta, and that's what I'm specifically talking about, where the bot actually talks back on your behalf. Now, the supported channels that you can turn on here are all listed here. Really important to understand, if you turn on the chat widget, SMS chat, then it will only reply to the first message that comes in the chat widget, right? So what that means is that when someone is on your website and they click this and they put their details in, send a message, it'll reply to that. But when they reply again, unless you've got SMS on, then it will stop replying. So if you're using the chat widget and you want it to keep going, make sure you've got SMS as well. Alternatively, this is where you may choose to use the live chat option. Live chat is basically just web chat. It doesn't send to their phone as a text. And it's something that's really been enabled since the conversation AI, because the problem with live web chat is that if there's no one there, then, and the person leaves the website, then you can't reply back to them. They'll never get the message. So now that we have this conversational AI, that's where you may like to use this in live chat if you're the sort of business where you don't have someone actually manning the conversations all the time. And then we're going to get into the bot trial in a minute. And yeah, one thing that I'll just clarify again, it's in the other videos, but remember, if you've got this send bot to sleep when you send a message manually or through a workflow, it does mean that if a lead gets an automated message that starts the whole conversation, then it won't work because that counts as a message, right? We've definitely got the feedback that this could be two different checkboxes, i.e. one, you could send it to sleep when a message is sent manually, and then separate, send it to sleep when a message is sent through a workflow. That's two different things, okay? Okay, I'm going to dive through here to the appointment booking function, okay? So just so you know what I'm talking about, I've actually got an example here in the conversation thread where someone has gone towards from a general question to booking an appointment. So I'll show that here. So it's like, yes, I'd like to book an appointment, and the bot's gone through and said, can you provide a preferred date and time? So this is the first thing to understand, and the way the bot works, that it's always going to ask the person when they'd like to book for, and it will actually give it a little bit of pushback. When someone says, what times do you have tomorrow? It's still going to say, well, you tell me a time, and then I'll check the availability. So it's going to do that 10 a.m. tomorrow, and then here it's picked up there's a slot available, and it has asked for an email, and then it has booked the appointment. Now, I'm going to show you another specific example here where an appointment has been booked. In fact, this is great here because you can see that if we scroll down here, I said, yes, that was when I was testing this, and it was just set to SMS chat. So then nothing happened. I went back and turned on SMS as well as SMS chat, and then it said yes again, and then it continued the conversation. So that's a good example of that. Great, when do you want to book for? I said tomorrow morning, and it said we don't have spots tomorrow. This is the first thing, limitation I want to bring up. At the moment, this booking bot is not completely reliable in as soon as you can book. For example, this calendar does have slots for tomorrow, but it didn't pick it up, and instead it offered spots for this afternoon. Right, so that's actually an error, and it was something I noticed in detailed testing that it was doing. So I did say, what about Thursday this week? And then the bot was correct in saying I have these slots on the 20th, and the spots that it gave are correct as reflected on the calendar. So that's good. I asked what time zone is it. It clarified the time zone of the account. I gave a time, 10 a.m., and then it booked it. And then notice what happens is that it books the appointment, and then that's the AI response. Great, you're booked in for 20th of June, 10 a.m. But then the workflow still fires, right? So if you've got workflows about what happens when that appointment is booked, that will still happen. And then we see here, this is the workflow message. All set, Matt, your ZipLeads demo with Frankie is confirmed, and it sends that message as well. Right, so you can use this in place of the booking bot, which is that's a separate thing in your workflows. So that's probably more appropriate for you guys probably watching this at the time of this recording, where you've got the booking bot already set up. That's separate. You would use this instead of, you wouldn't use as, well, you could use this in the chat side of things, and you could use the booking bot in your workflow automations, if you like. So you've got your conversational AI, which is what I'm showing you now, and your booking bot is that's what we use in the workflows where we get appointments booked with the AI. So they're actually two separate things. All right. And the last thing I'll talk about with the testing of booking appointments is that when you book in the bot trial area and actually book an appointment, sometimes it will actually create an appointment using the details of one of your user logins. Okay, so I tested this a little bit earlier, and I booked an appointment, and it actually, sorry, it actually booked in a live appointment, but not with my details, but it was just some other random user that we have on the team in ZipLeads. So when you do your testing, it's a really good idea to double check that appointment slot on your calendar. It may or may not have created an appointment. Obviously, if it's just a test, you want to go back and delete that appointment so that you're not just taking up that space for no reason. Okay, so I'm going to transition here to some of the other options with booking an appointment where you set this up. So inside your settings here of Conversation AI, you can click on Configure Intents. And this is where you actually enable the appointment booking in the first place. Probably should have mentioned that at the start, where you enable that or disable it, right? So disabled or enabled. When it's enabled, you can choose the calendar that you want it to book on. And then if you're not happy with some of the limitations that I've mentioned, where it's not getting the exact times right, maybe there's some time zone confusions, or you would just rather they go to the appointment calendar, you can do that. You can click this checkbox here, which says don't book appointment, just send the booking link. And then what it will do is, instead of having that conversation to find the time, as soon as it understands they want to book the appointment, it will send them the link and they can book. Okay, so that's personal preference as to which way you want to do it. I suppose anecdotally, the whole reason we use the booking bot in workflows is that we have found a much higher booking rate when people just book through conversation. Even though those of us that are likely business owners using ZipLeads, we'd probably just rather get a link. We have seen time and time again that just that conversational flow of finding a time and booking it in gets more appointments than just sending them the link. But you can just get them to be sent the link by just checking this box if you prefer. All right, let us transition now to the, I suppose, the support and general answer area, and sort of how the bot is getting its preferences, and really dive into really understand what's going on and how to best create the prompts and the training for the bot. Because this is really where it comes into play, is the support and general question and answer, because that's, as you can see, is always on. Okay, so it can certainly lead to an appointment booking, and that can be its goal, but it's always going to have, the whole point of conversational AI is the option to go beyond or even talk before booking an appointment, and so you're always going to have this feature on. So when you go into there's sort of three areas, if you like, where the bot's getting its information from. Like, what is the brain behind it? Where is it getting information? The first place that it looks is actually in the bot training area in the FAQs. Like this is the areas, like if you wanted something to be definitely what it goes off, it's the FAQs. But there are some things to understand about this Q&A section. So that's really important. So for example here, what does ZipLeads do? ZipLeads helps small businesses to convert more traffic to leads and convert more leads into customers. If someone says, what does ZipLeads do? It won't necessarily say exactly this. It will normally, but sometimes the AI will use slightly different words. Okay, so you want to keep it basic here. If you provide a lot of detail, like in here, I have with, how much does it cost? There's this huge long paragraph. It doesn't actually say that paragraph most of the time. It will say something shorter, but it's certainly something that's correct. Okay, it's like you're giving it information. It will still say what it feels is appropriate brevity and tone given the conversation, right? But the Q&A is sort of its first point of reference. To add Q&A, you can simply click add a Q&A here, but it's also really important to understand that one of the other things that happens is that when you're in a conversation with the AI, if you give it feedback, so for example, you can see these, I can give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. If you give a thumbs down to a particular response, right, it'll ask you, what should it have said? And whatever you save here and click train bot actually gets put in as a Q&A, right? And this can end up not being particularly helpful. So, and again, this is why this is a feature that's in beta, because this may change. Because for example, I could give I could change the response to someone giving the thumbs up and say all set then, but it has no context around it. So if someone gave a thumbs up to something different that didn't make sense, that's not making sense. I'll give you a more specific example. Is that I've got it on this slide here. If I just show you this zoomed in. Right, so here we've got this, we had our bot trained. If someone is wanting to build a new workflow, right, we had this conversation flow, and at some point, the person said, I want to create a new one. And the answer wasn't very good. And we trained it to say, sure, if you'd like help with creating a new workflow, this article will help. And it inserts the link for the our help library for creating a new workflow. However, because the sentence was literally, can you help me build a new one? What was happening was that if they said, like up here, it was, can you help me build a new workflow? But now, because in the Q&A, we had a question, can you help me build a new one? And it said, say this. Then if someone was asking, can you help me build a new calendar? Can you help me build a new form? Can you help me build a new website? It would just pick up on that phrase, can you help me create a new something? And it would send this answer, which is not helpful. So we had to delete that prompt, that Q&A prompt, because it didn't make sense. It didn't have the context. So remember that when you're training the bot, you are just training it on that specific query that came immediately before. It's not going to have the context of the whole conversation. Right? So when we removed that, then it provided a better answer, which was, hi, to build a new workflow, please talk to our account managers through the in-app support chat located at the bottom right-hand corner of your web application. Okay, so that's the better answer because that's what they need to do to create a new anything. So that leads me on to, okay, well, where did it get that information from? Because we're back here and I said the first place that it gets information from is your Q&As, and that's true. If the information's not here, then it's going to jump to, I haven't determined exactly where this is, but it's either your what you've given here as your uploaded links, okay? And you can see here we've got a training page, which I'll talk about in a second. And the other place is your intents. So in the configure intents area, you can edit the prompt to personalize the conversation. And this is where you'll see examples in here when you set it up. There are even templates that you can choose from. But you can literally type in here to basically tell your bot how best to speak. So you can see here, this is you. Always introduce yourself as Alex, the ZipLeads AI-powered bot, which it does. And so most of the time, again, it's a most of the time situation. This is why you really want to play with this thing so you can understand how it works. And then I've given it some conversation guidelines. I've mentioned things, what to say, what not to say. Again, this is one of those things that's in beta. It doesn't always get this right. We don't want this bot to say yeah, and occasionally it still says yeah, even though we've specifically told it not to. So tonality is important that you run some tests. Here, keep your responses brief. And again, this is where it can sort of come over the top of a Q&A. If you've got a really long Q&A, like a prompt, but here you're telling it to keep it brief, it's probably going to keep it brief and it's going to summarize what you've put back in your bot training in your Q&A responses, right? Coming back into intents, you will also see in the prompt for appointment booking, there's a couple of extra things. One, the goal is to book an appointment, which you can't change, right? But secondly, conversation flow. Again, another area in beta because it doesn't always ask these. But the theory here, and you want to test this, is you can put in things here that you want to know about the client before they book an appointment. So it might be, what's your business name? Or what's your goal? Where do you live? Are you looking for online or offline services? Whatever it is, you might want to clarify a few things to qualify the lead. You can do that in here. But again, you want to test this to see how effective that is for the flow that you're trying to build. Understanding that we have certainly seen that this doesn't always ask the questions here that we've put in. Okay, so you'll notice these are different prompts to the support and general question and answer. So you can set that there in the configure intents. So you've got so where is it getting its information from? You've got the Q&A area, you've got the configure intents in the prompt, and then you've got the bot training here in what URLs you're giving it. Now, one of the simplest ways you can give it a URL is, for some reason this is just looping on refetching my data here. You can actually put in a URL of a public share link of a Google Doc. So if you have like a live Google Doc, like just a Google document, you can write in what you want to put in, like you want to train the bot, and then just type it in here. Or you can do what I'm doing here, and you can use a funnel step. So here in my funnel step here, I've got a page, ZipLeads / training page for AI, and then I can edit this page. Now, regardless of whether you're using a page or a Google Doc, even if you update it, like you update the page or you update the Google Doc, always remember that if you've updated it, you need to come in here and click either get data again, or in the uploaded links, you can click this refresh button if it's the same URL, and it'll refresh the data. Okay, so it's not like it's always looking at that site for fresh information. You have to hit the refresh if you want to refresh it. Note that you can have more links. I could put a new link in here, I could add it, and it would just add to the flow. So I could have different pages on my website that I want it to look at, and I can add them all in here. Again, remember, you need to refresh it if you change any of those pages. Okay, so talking about what you put in on those pages, it's really important to understand that the way that the bot looks at this information is very much like someone's asked, like, let's use the workflow example. Someone's asked about a workflow. What it will do is it'll first go through the Q&A. It'll say workflow. Here we go. Can I get some help with the workflow? Hey, what specific workflow do you need help with? Or what do you need help with specifically, right? And it'll ask that, and we may see that in an example. No, so we don't see that in this example, but I ran this before. This is where it can vary, and it did actually ask, like, what specific help are you looking for? And then I gave another response, and then it picked up on the word new workflow, and then it answered this. Best to talk to your account manager directly. This is located in the bottom right hand of your web app when you're logged in. That's what it said. But basically, it's going down, it's looking for, okay, is there anything that like lines up with what the person just said? This, bang. Yep, that's what I need to say. It won't even get to this if it gets stopped on this. If it doesn't find its answer in the Q&A, that's when it will go to the intent settings or the what you've set up in your reference document. So here's my reference document. So here again, if you require help with your account, such as setting up a workflow, you can use the chat widget located at the bottom right-hand corner. So I've got it a few times over, right? Now, it's not like it. So what I want you to understand is it doesn't read everything and go, okay, now I've read everything. What's the best response for that question? It doesn't do that. It's just, it stops as soon as it gets to something. So if I said, for example, if it was like if the customer said, I need help setting up a workflow to fire, I need help setting up a new workflow to work off Facebook lead forms. If I had a secondary piece of information at the bottom of this page, right, somewhere, then that said, if it's about lead forms, then say this and send them this help article. It won't necessarily get to it because it already found an answer about a new workflow further up and it just said that. Similarly, if you give it an instruction to say, like, if you need help with a workflow, you can use the chat widget, or you can just read this help article. It won't follow the instructions of that or statement. Like it'll just say, I've got an answer here. I'm sending that answer. I'm sending the first thing. So if you said, if you need help with this, create a workflow, you can read this article, insert article link, or you can talk to one of our staff by using the in-app chat. It won't send that second half. It'll just send the first thing. So be careful if you want to give people options on what to do because it may only give them the first option. So really keep it simple for the bot and only give it one way, I suppose, for it to respond to a question because it may just pick one part of your answer. So keep it really, really simple. And finally, I'll just say definitely test your bot in the chatbot training area. Again, you can toggle between the requirements where you can reset the conversation, test it for appointment booking, or test it for general question. Note that when you hit reset, it'll always go back to appointment booking. So you've got to, after you hit reset, choose general question if that's what you're testing for. Run your tests. But it's also a good idea, and we do it, and I'd recommend you do it, that whatever in your settings, wherever you're setting it up for, if it's live chat, SMS chat, if it's Messenger, whatever, actually do some live testing as well in that as well to make sure it's working how you want it to work, particularly with appointment booking, rather than having just used the bot trial. You want to make sure you do some live testing with yourself as an actual contact in the system to test what it's doing over and over. So that's basically it. That's all I wanted to go through with this video. So if you're still here watching this very long-winded explanation on really how to get the most out of this, what is very much a beta feature right now, thank you for going through it. Really keen to get your feedback. So not just, I mean, obviously if there's something in this video that I haven't explained clearly or something you'd like more information on, please let me know. This is the sort of video that we would redo several times. But also, yeah, obviously, if you've got an issue, something doesn't quite work how you wanted it to work, let us know. As well as that, though, let us know what is working well. If you can give us feedback on, oh, I did this and that was really helpful, we'd love to get that feedback as well to pass on the developers to help them continue to improve the functionality of this and move it in the right direction. So, yeah, that's it. Any questions or any feedback, as I said, please send it through. And thanks so much for having a look and testing out this new beta feature of Conversation AI.